A few years back, I played Bad Company 2 for the first time, fully expecting to not like it. Something about the game just made me feel like, ugh. Keep in mind that these were closer to the better years of Call of Duty. I already had, something that I was loyal to. I didn't need a mistress, but my god, the teats on that game. Bad Company 2 was amazing, thus creating my love for the franchise. Now, I've seen a lot in these last few years. I was there when the giraffe soldiers roamed the plains of Operation Metro. I was there when Battlefield 4 had the one-shot kill bug. I was there for the mass extinction of the K-10. It was pretty interesting, and I gotta admit one of the biggest flaws that this game has had up until now was weapon balance. It's had a few hits and misses with map design. I'm here to break down Battlefield 1 as a whole, so consider this my official Battlefield 1 review for all of you guys watching. I've got about 200-300 hours into the game, already ranked 90. The first major patch has come through, and we won't see another until the start of 2017. So we're at a point we can officially break this down. The hype is out of the way, and we can honestly see the game for what it is. So the good, the bad, the ugly, we're going to discuss and dissect everything this game has to offer. Before we get started, may I say, I truly respect the development team for what they tried to do here. This was a very risky decision to make for a strong and growing franchise. Going back in time 100 years to the dawn of warfare was a very risky and ballsy decision to make. But they knew deep down inside they were the only game in the business that could capture the real authentic feel of the era. Call of Duty could bring in the guns that we have in this game to their game and say it's a World War I game, but it's not a World War I game. World War I was so much more. Between the biplane, the artillery, mortars, all of these things made that entire era. The death count from some of those were ridiculous. Tanks and everything. You can't get that from a Call of Duty or your traditional arena shooter. Only Battlefield can offer you that. And they had a benefit with that, and they captured that at such an incredible rate. They really did a good job at this. Now, of course, there were sacrifices to be made. We're going back in time. You had to give up the customization you've grown to love from Battlefield, something they've been notoriously successful with. You can't have your EOTechs and your Cobra red dot sights. You don't have your laser sights, because guess what? Hasn't been invented yet. So this was a pretty risky decision in some areas of the game, and not a lot of people were happy with the amount of guns added to the game, and of course the customization. Now of course we can't do anything about the customization or we lose the authentic feel of the generation. And you don't want to do that, so they should have probably compromised and added a few more guns. Now, this isn't a crazy game-breaking thing, it's just a little bit of a disappointment, obviously. They could have done better in this area is what I'm saying, so I don't really fault them for it because it's not their fault. There isn't customization existing back in World War I. They could have reinforced and padded this area to make it a little bit easier for the transition by adding more weapons in. It does feel a little slim on options to go with, and this is not the greatest feeling for a player personally. I do want to admit that we know there are 20 weapons coming, guaranteed, throughout the DLC release. Now we do know, at looking at battle packs, we're probably going to get 2 melee weapons every time, which means I expect them to continue this pattern just like we had to do with the Bartek Bludgeon and the Sawtooth. I feel like they're going to add 2 new ones for each DLC for us to collect the puzzle pieces with. And with there being 4 DLCs charted for the premium experience, that means we're going to get 2 of those out every time a DLC drops. 8 out of the 20 are gone right there because of melee weapons, leaving only 12 to be actual weapons if this is true, which means, if it's simple math, we should get 3 new weapons every time a DLC drops on top of the 2 melee variants. So this is pretty interesting. There's obviously going to be more options thrown into the mix, so just be a little bit patient and it'll keep things a little bit more refreshed. Now we're going to dive into more serious topics. How about the movement and the aiming inside Battlefield 1? For PC, it's to be as expected. It's PC, it's optimized. It's completely amazing. No fault there. You know what's next, right? Consoles like cowering in the corner like, shit, I've been caught. Yeah, this is about you, buddy. Now, I'm not going to say this is game breaking, because you can adjust to it. But there is honestly some sort of aiming clunkiness behind the default settings. Now, for somebody that's been playing Battlefield on console for a while, if you're one of those people, you're probably going to be like, this doesn't happen, don't listen to this fucking guy. And those guys are just wrong. I play every game I play on default settings. I know what I'm talking about. It's important, in my opinion, to play a game on its default settings. These are the settings that developers have chosen to be the recommended options for you to play with. And they've made their game around these settings. So if you choose and elect to ramp up the sensitivity or do something, go for it. But the game should be playable and comfortable as soon as you pick up the sticks. This game was not for me. It took me hours and hours and hours to adjust to Battlefield. Normally, no matter the taste or the quality of the game, whether it's Call of Duty or Destiny or anything on console, I can pick up the game within a game or two. I've already got everything under control, and I feel pretty confident in my abilities. Battlefield 1 took me a long-ass time to get used to, and there are lots of customizations and settings for this game. You can alter the sensitivity and do all of these changes, but you shouldn't be forced to do something like that, and that's something I felt like I had to do. I decided to not do it and see if I could just adjust to it, and with a few hours, I got used to the controls. Now, as I said, this is just an immediate thing. This is a first-time thing, so somebody that's playing the game for the first time, you may notice this aiming clunkiness. It's a little hard, and with the aim assist, this thing snaps to things. Absolutely snaps to things. So it's a little different, and it may be part of the reason why it conflicts, but it's a little tight. It's a very awkward experience, but as I said, the more you play, the more you're going to get used to this, and you're not even going to notice it's there anymore. So it's not terrible, it's just kind of uncomfortable to have that. I don't like it. Now, pushing that aside, how about the gameplay itself? It all feels smooth. Obviously, when you get boots on the ground in this game, you know it's a Battlefield game. You see the aerial combat, you see the tanks, the guns, the customization, the ammo, the revives. It's unmistakable, and because of that, it still is an amazing option for you to purchase. I'm not going to take anything away. I do have my gripes about the game, but Battlefield is Battlefield, and this game is pretty awesome. With the give and take, the risk that they took with this game, I'm really proud with the outcome of this game, and it feels like a Battlefield. And that's what we go for. We go for those Battlefields, right? I know, right? Oh, cringy, that's what they say on Twitter. Yeah, it really is an authentic game. You feel like you're a part of a battle. It's not just a match, you know what I mean? And that's one thing that Battlefield does to separate themselves, is you feel like you're a part of thing, and you can migrate from this point to that point, and they do a great job. They added a few new game types as well. I'm not personally a fan of Operations. I feel like it's a clusterfuck, but people are into that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Operation Locker and Metro guys. And it's an incredible game type for some people. It's not my favorite, but it works. War Pigeons and a few other additions make this a very interesting one. They've also added custom games. And this is something I think they started to sample in Battlefield Hardline. They wanted to add more of a casual approach. This game was very, very serious. There were a lot of elitists, and this was an old-fashioned game where PTFO and objective gameplay or die was the motto. That's how you had to play the game. And I think they've done a good job at keeping it a very serious and competitive game while adding casual aspects for those that want to just take the game a little less serious sometimes. And I think this was a very healthy transition and one of the best things they've done to change Battlefield 1. They found a good medium, and I'm really happy with that. Another thing they've done in Battlefield 1, which was a major improvement, something that since I've been playing Battlefield they haven't quite captured, and this was kit balance. And this is something I can't praise them enough on. I feel like I play support a lot now. I love the Madsen Trench, I love the kit, the limpet charges are cool, mortars for the right kind of map so that there's no sort of throttle or bottleneck. Medics have always just been the healers, right? You use your heals, you'd use your revive, and that's all you did. You never changed your equipment. Hardly ever was it done. It wasn't viable. But now, if I'm being overwhelmed on Sinai Desert and there's just too much armor, I can put on rifle grenades and fight back. There's now options for every kit to be valuable for any situation, whether it's just a support role, something against infantry, or something on the kit you want to use against armor. You can now fight back at everything, and this is very healthy. And this has actually set the bar for balance and kit use and value overall. This is going to be something that other Battlefields in the future are going to have to aim to make it so that every kit is useful, and that one is just not going to be superior to the other, which has been something that's been a pretty big problem in Battlefield for a while. The medic role was too strong with the revives and the heals, the continuous fighting, and also having the strongest guns created a crazy problem in Battlefield 3. And we've seen that's another area of weakness for DICE. They have always allowed this one or two guns to control the entire meta, be overpowered. And I hate to throw that out there, but it's true. Remember the M16 and AEK? I still have nightmares. Remember how hard the K-10 ruined Battlefield Hardline damn near single-handedly? That was rough. And this is just one of the biggest areas. And they've done a great job because at any point in time, I can just, inside me, have a craving to play support. And let's be honest, that's not something most people have cravings for in Battlefield, at least not up until now. So now I'd be like, okay, I'll pick one or two of the options that I'm comfortable with. I can choose between a few different guns, the Bar or the Trench Madsen, and I'm happy with that. I don't feel like I'm going to be outplayed by a superior gun. I can hold my own. But I also have a lot of very valuable assets in my kit. I can use limpets against this. Maybe I can use mortars if I'm playing on Argonne Forest. So there's so much more variety and balance within this game. The harmony is real. So I don't feel like I'm being completely outclassed or losing gunfights because so-and-so just had a better gun than me. I don't feel like I'm less of a value or an asset to my team because I'm playing support and damn near none of it's useful. They've done a really good job at making this game amazing, and I can't compliment them enough on how far they've come in one title in terms of balance, something they've been missing for years, and I'm truly proud of where they are with this one. Now, moving on. They've obviously had to capture this authentic World War I, so they added in things like horses, which are really, really cool. Cavalry was a brilliant idea. The idea of elite classes is interesting. We know more of them are going to be coming. Tank Hunter's pretty cool, but they're strong without being overpowered. They don't really completely change anything. I mean, somebody really good with one can completely overcome and take out a bunker or something, and that's great, but it's not like they can't be taken down. If a team focus fires them, they're out of the picture. They don't just happen to generate at crazy fast times. They're not game-breaking, and I don't feel like at any point I can't contest one. I know with the help of a bayonet or something like that, I can do great things. And that's another great feature with this game, the bayonet charge. Some people are mixed about this. I think it's incredible. I absolutely love the bayonet charge. It allows me to clear wide open areas a little bit faster, feel a little safer, closing the distance gap on some people. It's a great way to take out other players. It's really, really interesting. You also get fatigued and exhausted when you use it, so you have to have a period of vulnerability where you walk slow after doing it, so I don't feel like it's crazy. It's really, really cool, and I like how they've changed the melee system too, the beat down, the front mechanism. The counter knife is one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in a Battlefield game, and I'm totally glad that's gone. So up to this point, it all seems like blowjobs and pudding cups. It's just happy, right? Happy, happy. I've praised this game enough. It's time to talk about the one or two flaws that I've had with the game, and I feel like they're actually major issues that I'm not very satisfied with. Up until this point, my home game type was Rush. I feel like they butchered this, throttling the player count, reducing it down to 24 while still allowing heavy tanks to exist. We are humans. We are fleshy and fragile. We crush under pressure. Why would you think it's a smart idea to add armor to Rush? If you're going to reduce the player count, making it 12v12, but half the team can sit in a giant tank, this is overwhelming, and I don't think it's fair. It's not authentic to the fight. This isn't how warfare worked back then, and reducing the player count was a bad decision in the first place, and then keeping the armor in there was just an extra blow. That was kicking the game type while it was down. And I'm really disappointed in how far Rush has fallen, because up until now it's been one of the key game types in the franchise. My favorite, to be honest, and I have no desire to play it anymore. It just completely sucks ass. They either need to boost the players back up and keep the heavy tanks in, or remove the heavy tanks out and keep the player count where it is, and just keep it strictly to like cavalry and transport vehicles so it's not overwhelming. They create this issue where everybody has to go assault because heavy tanks are just completely tanky right now. Sounds kind of weird, right? Tanks being tanky? What? But it's true. It just gets overwhelming, and a tank can ruin the entire experience by just sitting back, and there's nothing infantry could do. There's not enough pew-pews coming out of rockets, and not enough damage to be dealt, and it gets pretty painful. Now, that aside, I want to talk about Conquest and the addition of behemoths. Now, I don't mind behemoths in operations. It makes sense. It's cool. Reinforcements, waves, everything like this. It works, and I get it. I like them there. I do not like them in Conquest. More importantly, I do not like the way that they are delivered in Conquest. This is pure stupidity, and this is what is really crippling the FPS genre as a whole. Games are becoming too casual, and adding elements like a behemoth into Conquest makes the game type casual. It's not a heads-up fight. If I were to win a game type because of a behemoth, it wasn't because we actually won the game type. It's because we had an advantage. We had a handicap. That doesn't mean we did shit in the end. That completely changes it. They didn't have one, we did. We won. Doesn't feel like I accomplished anything because we had help. Doesn't really count at that point. But people are going to sit here and say, well, you know, they rarely actually help you win games. And that's true. I rarely ever see it turn the tide of battle. But what I do see in Conquest is the winning team being punished for winning. And that is never healthy. It's not healthy for any of the parties involved. If you're giving this as a crutch to the losing team, they're never going to learn how to fight themselves out of a problem or dig them out of the hole that they put themselves in. They need it to be a neutral, fair fight, and the only way that happens is everybody to have the same thing available to them. I like that these behemoths are in the game, it just does not fit well with Conquest, and unless they make it fair, and that's like assigning a point and finding some way to actually fight over it, and then if you earn it, you get to use it, that would make sense. We've seen that in other Battlefield games. That would work for me. But giving it to the losing team, who the hell thought that was a good idea? DICE? No, bad DICE. This is stupid. Punish the good team for being good and reward the bad team for being bad. Congratulations, the Cleveland Browns won 0-16 this year. Here's your Super Bowl. Nope, doesn't work like that, guys. And it shouldn't inside of a video game either. But that's the review. Really happy with this game. I like how they've improved balance, which has been the biggest issue with Battlefield up until now. They've done a great job at making the kits valuable for all the classes. And this is good. Everything's viable now, and I'm happy with where this game is. I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. Really happy with the risk they took to go back in time. It makes it refreshing because we haven't had a World War I game. And this is cool, by bringing something old into the modern times. So thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you're new here. Leave a like as it helps out, and I'll catch you with another one tomorrow.